About 10 years ago, when I was writing about business education for The Economist, for Bloomberg, one of my editors at Bloomberg asked me to write an article about business school engagement in Africa. And I think it was the only time that I went back to an editor and I said, Lewis, how short can this article be? Because there wasn't much. Now, of course, Africa is one of the most exciting stories across the continent. The opportunities, the talent, and business schools have really woken up to this. And it's a real pleasure to welcome Shalom Akinboboye. Shalom, thank you very much for joining us at CentreCourt today.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Now, you studied business and graduated from the University of Ghana, and then built a very successful career working with Bati et al. On a variety of, you had a leadership role for customer engagement and devices. So the idea of business school, was it something that you always had in the back of your mind, that despite all that you'd already studied at the University of Ghana, that you wanted to go back to get your MBA?
Not necessarily, actually. So interestingly, before I got into Airtel, I had not thought about getting an MBA at all, because it wasn't very normal to get a master's in business administration where I'm from. However, the CEO of Airtel Ghana at that point was Lucy Quist, who is an INSEAD MBA alum. She was in the 2005 J class, and just getting to know how going back to school and getting an INSEAD MBA sort of skyrocketed and pivoted career made me quite interested to get an MBA as well.
You've accepted a position as an incoming consultant at BCG, and in fact you were already chosen for the BCG a women's fellowship that took you through the MBA. Did that predestine you to then accept the position at BCG coming out of INSEAD?
Well, it sort of did. One thing I really loved about being a BCG Women's MBA Fellow was that I got to understand the firm and the industry and what consultants do on a day-to-day basis before I even applied for recruiting as a consultant. So for that reason, I felt that I knew what I was going in for, and I felt, can I take this again?
Please. I'll ask the question again, and we'll just take the slice out. You've accepted a position as a consultant for BCG, and will be starting in Johannesburg in a few months. Now, you had already been selected as a BCG MBA Women's Fellow. What was it that they saw in you?
So I knew right coming into INSEAD that I wanted to go back home and help solve the extremely interesting and complex problems that existed on the African continent. But then I didn't know in what capacity I wanted to join. And interestingly, I became part of the BCG Women's MBA Fellowship, and I was amazed at what the firm was doing on the continent, helping governments and public and private sector companies solve those really interesting projects and questions. And for that reason, I made a decision that I wanted to be a consultant.
Now you will have an intensive next step in your career. INSEAD is intensive enough. You work hard, you play hard. You found the time to excel in the case competitions. In fact, with your team, you were winners of the case competition at IESA. How does a case really then sort of contribute to your learning and thinking around a particular problem?
I think in the end, what a case is trying to narrow down to what the root cause of a problem is and trying to structure a way of solving it. So what I love most about cases, and I still give case interviews to prospective candidates up until today, it's just that process of being able to get into a new industry and an industry you have no idea about, and being able to logically map out the steps to solving what the problem is. And I feel like that skill set is useful in a myriad number of problems and projects.
The year at INSEAD is sometimes described as it's like drinking water from a fire hydrant. It's so intensive. What have been some of the highlights for you?
Okay, so I am a 20J, so that means that almost half of my INSEAD experience was virtual. And this really separates the class of 2020 from most other batches. However, I am forever the optimist. And for me, the highlight of my INSEAD experience was how supportive the entire class was to each other through what was really uncertain times this year. And even how open the entire INSEAD community was and the school itself to helping my class, which is the 20J class, and the 20D class, make sense of the rapid change that was happening in the world. And I feel that my specific highlight was the close-knit friendships I forged through that shared experience of recruiting and navigating uncertainty together.
It's when you put those two classes together, it's over 1,000 students. So in that year, how do you build the sort of the connections, the friendships? I mean, there's the classroom, but there's also so much going on outside of the classroom, clubs and many, many activities, right?
Mm-hmm. So I think just because of everything that's happened this year, the 20J and 20D classes were sort of merged together in a way. So we had quite a number of courses together. We became leadership of clubs together, and we sort of forged a sort of friendship across the two classes outside of class. And I believe it's just because they were around and we were, and we had classes virtually. So for that reason, there was so many opportunities to merge and meet and connect that other classes wouldn't have had.
Classes that are focusing on specific business skills or strategy, but it's also a year to really learn about yourself.
It is.
For you, what was that personal journey?
So included in the first 4 months at INSEAD is what's called the PLDP. So it's a personal leadership and development program, which is embedded into your core curricula at INSEAD. And for me, I had spent the last 5 years before prioritizing like career progression and growth opportunities. And I thought the PLDP sessions were a really safe space to focus on what matters most to me and to reground to what my core values are. And my core values are family, friends, and constant self-development. So I really appreciated having that time to like introspect on campus and plan for the journey ahead.
Right. As part of the CentreCourt Festival, I was fortunate to interview the INSEAD Dean, Ilyan Mihov, who of course has been a force behind a new center and business as a force for good. I'm very interested that in your background, there's a consistent pattern, whether it was with Anaptys, whether it was with Save the Children, whether it was sponsors for educational opportunity, you've always found the time to support and encourage and help the development of others. Is that something that you see as a value among your INSEAD classmates?
Oh yes, it is. So what I love most about INSEAD is the fact that we are very, very diverse. But then the core tenet of one INSEAD is that they are always open to learn and always open to help people. And I think that it's because of the different experiences they've had growing up. So for that reason, I knew coming in that I loved social impact, but coming to INSEAD and meeting so many people that have done so many wondrous like social impact and non-governmental organization projects in the past just made me realize how much there is out there. So currently I'm interning with Ashoka, which is a social impact firm for their Johannesburg office as a program manager specifically for their Changemakers United Africa program, which is sort of a collective initiative to help social entrepreneurs at the forefront of innovative COVID-related responses. And I got that internship through the INSEAD CDC and their focus on like merging or creating a marketplace for INSEADers and social impact firms across the world.
Right. I mean, I speak to hundreds, if not thousands of MBA applicants every year, and some say, oh, well, yeah, INSEAD, great school, of course, but everybody goes to BCG, McKinsey, and Bain. But whether it's social enterprise, whether it's impact investing, I'm sure your class of 20J, I mean, you're all now doing so many different things. Not everybody else ends up at MBB, right?
Not everybody does. No, in the end, only about 20 to 30% of the class ends up in consulting of one sort or the other.
Right, right. Well, that sort of positive impact. There will be the school applications have jumped by 58% to join the next class. As you went through that monster application, 7 essays, the video essay. It's we tease one of my co-directors, Caroline, about the INSEAD application and how big it is, but she says, well, it really helps us to get to know the individual. So as you think about when you were sitting down to apply to INSEAD, what advice would you now share with others to share their story?
The INSEAD application process is really time consuming. And I know that this might sound cliche, but then in that entire process, you should be yourself wherever you are and let your individuality shine through your interviews and your essays. Just make sure that whatever perception you are making of yourself is a genuine one. And I think that one of the 4 key essay topics in the application centers around what your journey has been so far. And for me, in a way that sort of encompasses what your 1 year at INSEAD would be. It's a great fast-paced pit stop in the journey of your life. So just make sure that it's the right fit for you, and you can take all the advantages that you can get at INSEAD.
Right. Well, by being yourself, clearly it's opened up the doors at INSEAD, and now exciting opportunities both in the current internship and the work that you're doing for the next few months before joining BCG. So Shalom, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story and those words of encouragement to others. We look
Thank you for
forward to
having me.
next steps of your adventure.
Thank you for having me, Matt.